dun 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 dun. Welcome to the Max and Vernon project dun dun dun. Welcome to the Max and Vernon project dun dun dun. We're glad to have you here. Excited to learn some stuff today. This is our 9th podcast. Actually, it's not. I don't know what number this is. 9th? I have no idea why I said 9th. I think it's like 18th by this point.
I'm about to say that's a pretty random number, but we did have an entrance this time. Our last recorded episode, we actually did not have an entrance at all. So just in case you're wondering and you listened to that last one, that was, I guess, on purpose.
It was not on purpose. I totally forgot. In all honesty, there's not much that happens on purpose in this show.
That's
to be
truth.
To be frank, one of my favorite words, by the way, to be frank with someone, like it's someone's name. I don't get it. Never mind. I won't go down that path. But to be candid and honest, the point is, glad you tuned in today. We have some very important discussions, but first and foremost, we want to thank our friends at Palette Collective.
Ooh!
They gave us some very scrumptious, tasty coffee. And honestly, it's fueled my last couple of days. So check them out. Palette Collective, awesome. I had some Ethiopian. You know what? When it comes to my coffee, I like the floral, the citrus notes.
Really?
I am one of those guys where I really enjoy the overly naturally flavored kind of fruity coffee and the lightness to it, because it makes me feel like I know coffee. Now, don't get me wrong, I like all kinds of coffee, but this, for some reason, I like the floral citrus notes. When there's a hint of blueberry in it, I had this coffee, man, it was this Ethiopian coffee, and it had blueberry notes in it. Oh, it's absolute fire. It was just like I ate a flamethrower.
I just love the fact that people can't see you talking about this so excited right now about how you love fruity coffee, and just watching you talk with this sparkle in your eyes and using your hands to kind of get your point across. It warms my heart, Max.
I just waft it in as I smell it. I make the coffee. I just stand over as it brewing. Have you ever made the mistake of like the coffee's being made and you're like, this smells so good, so you decide to eat one of the coffee beans thinking it'll taste like it smells. You're like, oh god, gosh, gross.
I did drop some on the floor the other day, and my dog ate them, and me and my daughter looked at each other and we were like, uh-oh, what does that mean?
Speaking of dogs, there's a new one to the family.
Oh yeah, man, we just picked up a new English cream golden retriever 2 days ago. So now we have two, Happy and Rue. It's been I didn't grow up with dogs. I'm not sure if you did, Max. We've never talked about this, but I never was a big dog person. I didn't grow up with them. And with everything going on with COVID, it's been like a huge positive with the kids having dogs in the house. It's been very relieving and lightening of the mood.
I did have a dog growing up. His name was Puff Daddy.
Yes.
It was a little white Bichon Frise.
I was hoping Pomeranian, but that'll do.
His name we call him Puff. I remember I got him when I was in 6th grade, or maybe it was actually 5th. We got him because he, quote unquote, had character as a puppy. Little did we know he was just really annoying, and just barked at everything. But he recently passed, he basically essentially lived so long that he began to disintegrate. His like teeth fell out. The guy was like 900 years old in dog years. That's amazing. I mean, probably older than me. Even though I got him in 5th grade, he somehow aged faster than me. We were big fans of him. Point is, I'm getting a dog here in the near future.
Ooh.
And we too would like to get a golden. And I showed Kelsey your pups, and my goodness, are they adorable.
Thank you. So this
just wanted to snuggle with a couple.
So completely random, but my daughter brought up an interesting point the other day that made me stop in my tracks. And being the science nerd that you are, I'd love to have your input. She made the point that what if dogs are always excited to see you because they one human year is 7 dog years. So an hour to a human is 7 hours to a dog. So she was like, so when we're gone for 3 hours, that we're pretty much gone an entire day to them. So that's why they're so excited. And I was like, what the hell? How have I never thought about this?
Wow. What did we just? That's why trees never want to fight you, because their perception of time is so long that even if you kick them or tear off a branch, it doesn't even matter, because they've been around for so many lifetimes that a single instance of pain to a tree could not make a difference.
I'm not sure if I could draw that line from that story, Max, but we'll go with it. That's the reason trees don't hit you back.
Yeah, basically. That is, yes. That's why trees don't hit you back. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. It sounds dumber the second time.
I'm going to leave that there.
Oh my gosh. Oh boy. Okay. Well, let's talk about something useful. And speaking of things that are dumb are when people say I don't like cardio. I'm not a big cardio guy. I'm like, well, are you not a big living longer guy either? Like, you're not really into living longer and being healthy. You're not that kind of guy either. Not a big have a couple extra years of my life guy.
Man, that is an interesting one. And what's funny with that is everyone bonds together with that. Like, could you have
screw cardio? Die earlier. Like, what? This is the stupidest thing ever.
Could you imagine if someone came on like if you were at a facility and you did a site visit and you were like, hey, you want to get a workout in today? And they're like, yeah. And like, all right, what are we doing today? And it's like, oh, we're squatting or deadlifting. Like, we're actually gonna go run a 5K. You'd be like, what?
I don't know why there's such a I've never met runners who are like have disdain towards lifting, where they're like, what are you gonna do today? Lift weights? You know what I mean? It's always like, we can do the cardio. Yeah, right. What? Why is it such a thing? It's like,
I don't know why, but it is totally true, man. Like,
it's such a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah. And instantly, if you were talking to someone as a strength coach, it's funny because we are strength and conditioning coaches, but it's like, no, I'm a strength coach. Actually, you're a strength and conditioning coach. There's another C word in this sort of certification that you should understand. But
It's like going to a restaurant, just being a savage and just straight ordering dessert. I'm not a big vegetable guy. Just give me the dessert. People are sitting down. They're like, "Oh, a 3-course meal. What do you want, sir?" I'll have a Caesar salad. I'll have a steak, and I'll have another appetizer of like chicken wings. And someone's like, you know what, just 3 pieces of pie.
So I honestly,
straight to do it.
For those listening, at this point, I'm kind of feeling attacked. I've definitely said the cardio thing, and
I have to.
I was gonna let that slide because someone listening to this is probably gonna call me out because I've said that. But then I've also went to a restaurant and just ordered desserts.
You sick animal. Something's wrong with you, man.
Being an adult means I can eat dessert at any point in the day that I want to.
Yeah. That's like a kicking and screaming line from Will Ferrell, like, "Hey, yeah, I can eat cookies for dinner, and you're just a fart-faced kid." He's yelling at the kid. I'm a grown-ass man. I can eat cookies for dinner.
So I do know that you have been getting more cardio in, I guess, with COVID going on. You've been outside running more. Specifically, I've actually been getting into running more as well. I just like, outside of the cardiovascular benefits of doing aerobic activity and all the physiological effects of it. I like how I feel, man. Like I just like it makes me feel bouncier when I'm more active.
I'll tell you this much: I look a lot better with my shirt off.
That's a very
Doesn't hurt, lift a little weights, run a little bit. Pool time, I'm first to hop in.
What is 50,
it? 55 degrees out, why not?
Fat don't fly. What is that saying?
That's like fat don't fly, right? Right? Yeah, let's a little bit of that. A little running never hurt me, I guess.
I don't think a little running hurt anyone ever, but
might help someone live a little bit longer.
But their knees will hurt. But running's bad for my knees, Max. Running's bad for my knees. What do I do about that?
Well, that's unfortunate. Have you not run much recently?
Running would be bad for my knees too if I was 50 pounds overweight. Like that has kind of plays a part in that.
How about you run on the grass? How about you do cardio and running are not the same, by the way.
Very true.
You can do cardio without running. You can do cardio by, just doing upper body exercises and things. Yep. You can do cardio by swimming. It doesn't need to be impact. We just need to make sure that just make sure you understand what cardio is and how having the stigma of anti-cardio can be actually a very bad thing. And it's weird because I get a lot. Here's the thing. I had at Iowa State a lot of young trainers, so people who were just getting in, and that was a big one. Like, it's a bonding. It's like the first thing they can relate to the strength and conditioning world. Like, dude, screw cardio, man. We're squatting today. My cardio comes in the form of doing squats. I'm like, okay. Yep. That's fine by you. There's a lot of science to say you might run a little bit. Just go that far and say, eating ice cream every day probably isn't a good experiment.
Yeah. And I mean, building that aerobic base right out of the gate will help long term with not only the longevity of living, but, with the strength numbers coming after that. So as a big shift I made with my athletes a couple years ago is putting more emphasis on that aerobic base. And that doesn't necessarily mean beating them into the ground. For those listening, that doesn't mean making a workout as hard as possible or an endless hit cycle of something to wear them out, but just making things on that low threshold of the heart rate, just keeping them moving, shortening the rest periods, small things like that. The heart doesn't care what the movement is. It doesn't care if it's a jump. It doesn't care if it's a jump rope. It doesn't care if you're running. We jokingly, you actually brought up the skip bow. It doesn't matter if it's a skip bow and you're just skipping around.
The hell is a skip? I mean, a skip it?
No, the skip bow where it's in. Did you not bring that up? Did someone else?
Skip it. It's a skip it.
I thought it was a skip bow.
No, your names are so erratic. You just make them up. Add it to the list. Relationship machine. The other, I don't remember, whatever it was.
Whatever.
Sorry.
You get my point.
I just don't want the skip it to be offended. It could be a future investor.
But you get my point. The heart
I do.
The heart doesn't care. It sees activity, and from there, that can be anything. It could be riding a bike. It can be on a skier. You can be on a rower. You could be doing a freaking fast walk at the local mall before the stores open. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be, a 5K or a 10K or fartleks. It doesn't have to be. It can be anything.
The heart wants what it wants.
Ooh, yep.
Just yep it.
Primarily because I didn't know what that meant. I thought it was a Dancing with Wolves quote.
You know I don't like? The thing I wish that we got into too. I wish pec decks weren't so shunned. Another thing I get with young trainers, it's always like, man, only compound exercises are going to get you big. You can only get healthy doing squats and bench. If you ever done a pec deck, my God, that's a great pump. There ain't nothing better. There's nothing bad. I am for machines, by the way, for those of you that listen. We've mentioned shoulder wealth, not health. I'd have some chest wealth, not health, as well. Put that in the mix. But the point is, I think we're getting at is how we as people bond around things that maybe don't have a reason to be hated on, right? It's bonding through disdain, bonding towards dislike, bonding towards putting down, right? Oh, like that's a CrossFit workout. We can't do that. Or, oh, that's just a meathead workout. We can't do that. Or that's just cardio. And it's never a bonding of, hey, man, that's exercise. I'm happy that you're doing that. It's not a celebration, but it's a division through making someone else feel better by showcasing a negative of someone else or potential negative.
I mean, that's it. I mean, look at social media, man. That's all it is. It's someone tweets something and then everyone else chimes in on it. It's some sports center posts some video or something, and it's, well, why don't they ever post real exercises? Why do they always post these crazy Bosu ball things? And then they post a video of some kid cleaning this past week, and then people are criticizing that. I'm like, good Lord, guys! Like, what are we doing here? Like, like you said, we bond by discrediting.
Yeah, and that does frustrate me because it's like you can't win the other battle, so you gotta make your own battle. It's like, oh, I can't, I don't want to go down this path, but I might just go down this path. we might go there.
Oh,
this is a dark place.
Roads, where we're going, we don't need roads.
That's Back to the Future Part 2 and beginning, end of Part 1, mind you.
Oh, okay.
Just Doc Brown.
I like it.
Mr. Fusion. That's where the quote comes from.
I like it.
So point is, by the way, that I get very frustrated that we get in arguments over things that don't really matter. What do I mean by that? Well, we like to argue, oh, is this movement the movement we should do for power development? Is this exercise was knee valgus? Is someone going to get hurt if they have that? If someone does X, Y, and Z, does it mean this? And people pick too many hills to die on, in my opinion. And really, it's more of like, there's not an underlying appreciation of a causal factor. So example would be someone goes, oh, that's knee valgus. Someone's going to get hurt. But unless you can actually explain the true mechanism of injury, which is quite difficult to do because there's theories behind it, it's very hard to pinpoint a problem, right? So it's kind of like saying, man, you got a fever, that's bad, no fevers allowed. But you're like, I'm sick, like, can you actually help the sickness? Like, can you actually help? No, oh no, you got a fever, you're too hot, gotta put some ice packs on. Like, you're treating a symptom, not a cause. And it's unfortunate because, like, to be so dead set and saying, oh, that problem is going to lead to this, is a fact that you're admitting that you don't recognize the other 90% of things that go into it. Yeah. Like, let me just take you down a deep dive. I don't want to, but I will.
I want to.
If someone gets hurt, why does someone get hurt? Someone sprains an ankle, non-contact. All what you witnessed was the last straw on the camel's back. So if you say the injury takes place, you could say, well, it happened because someone, their ankle was weak or they stepped inappropriately. And you can say, okay, or maybe the load was greater than what the ankle could handle. Or you could say the load was greater than the ankle could handle because their muscles were fatigued from a previous workout. Or the muscles were fatigued from a previous workout because they didn't adequately recover from nutrition standpoint. Nutrition standpoint wasn't met because the micronutrients that they were consuming wasn't adequate to meet the demands of tendon repair. You could argue maybe they were eat enough, but their absorption rate was inappropriate through the gut. Gut disruption occurred because they had psychological stress. The psychological stress, like, you could go down the rabbit holes. And the point what I'm trying to get at, you could say, well, Max, you could probabilistically look at it and be like, okay, it's probably not this. It's probably majority this, and minority of the explanation could come from this. Fine, but appreciate that. You can't just be like, oh, someone got hurt because they moved this way, and you're like, oh my God, no. Like, no, that's not the only reason. Because if that's the reason before I interrupt you, everyone else who moves that way should get hurt too.
Yeah. So, and I think that as coaches, we like to be able to respond, like you said, to, oh, that knee valgus happened, so that's why they tore their ACL, that's why they sprained, whatever happened, because we like having the answers. And not having an answer is very uncomfortable. Where I find that that is probably one of my favorite answers. When someone asks me something and I don't know, I love being able to say, man, I actually don't know. I'm going to look that up. I'm going to look more into that and we can talk back about this later. But on social media, it's if you say that, then oh my God, that coach doesn't know what he's talking about. Like you have to have an answer. And I'm like, no, you don't. Like when you go see a doctor, sometimes when you go see a doctor, he doesn't have the answer of right there's what's wrong with you. How much you want to bet that dude goes back and looks through his books or goes on his database and he types in all of your things and comes up with a bunch of potential things that it could be. They do blood labs, they do all these things. There's no direct answer right out of the gate, but from a strength coach perspective or someone that's involved with athletics, it's like I need to know that answer. It's because the knee went valgus. Maybe, but like you said, there's a lot of other variables at play.
And that grouping, that mindset, again, because there's groups like, oh, it has to be valgus. Oh, those guys who think it's just valgus are idiots. It's the foot. And then the guys are like, those guys are idiots. It's the fascia. And what happens is the fact that there's an unknown, there makes tribalism, right? Because someone has to believe so much that there's right because they're so unsure if it is right. There's not a field of acceptance that we don't really know. Because if we don't really know, you can't really always provide the best solution. But if you think you know, you think you can provide the best solution every time. So by not knowing, quote unquote, you have what people might think is they've devalued yourself. Oh, well, you don't know or you're not valuable. And that's not true. Not knowing doesn't mean you don't know more than someone else. Right? Yeah. It doesn't mean that you still don't know, but this is your belief and this is your hunch. And in that, we can tackle it from multiple angles, which might give you the best shot, versus saying it's only this, it has to be this, and that dogmatic ideology of it has to be is very, very dangerous because it opens that door or closes the door on others and opens the door to, defending it with emotions. It's very much like that amygdala community-based reaction where it becomes super knee-jerk in response.
Yeah, we become biased to previous experiences. And like you said, our judgment, I think, then becomes clouded. I remember one time someone talked to me about going with their gut and their gut instinct. And I was like, well, the problem with that sometimes is when you're judging other people and each person is a different individual, your gut instinct is based off of your experiences. You don't know that person's experiences, how that person responds to, relationship problems or whatever else. So your gut instinct is biased towards you and what you've experienced in the environments of your life. So having that perspective, like you said, that I don't know, I think is powerful because it shows that I don't know, but to me, it also means I'm open to every outcome. I'm open to every
exactly. Yes.
I'm open to every possibility. That doesn't mean like, oh, it's a muscle, it's fascia, it's stress, it's hydration, it's nutrition, whatever. It could be all of those. And I'm open to addressing all of those, talking about all of those, and finding a new plan that addresses those rather than me being in that silo, like you said, being in that tribe where it has to be one thing. It has to be my fault or someone else's fault. It can't just be all of us in this together trying to find a solution.
So when you admit that you don't really know something, you're erring on the side you're not going to be right, but you're guaranteeing you're not wrong, right? And so, like, if you say definitively that you know something, you're basically putting yourself, well, you probably don't know. You're basically saying you're wrong. That comes down to it. Right, because you have a lot of people, like, the fascia thing bothers me a lot. Like, people, it's like, so many things are on fascia. But like the research on fascia is actually very minimum. Like, I don't know, why isn't the epimysium? Is it epimysium? The I can't remember the name of it right now. The extended sheath of the tendon that goes in paramysium, that goes into the muscle. can change. And so the tendon and it goes into the muscle, and that extension of the tendon actually runs as lining. And they've showed adaptive qualities of that. And that's not the fascia that's on the inside of the muscle, the fascia on the outside. Like, well, why are all these other connective tissues not of interest? Like, why is it only the fascia? Why, and why do we think this fascia, again, it could be, I'm not I got against it, but like, is there evidence that it actually has active contractile properties? Is there really that much evidence? Like, if you had to put a pie chart of evidence of why people move, I think muscles would make up the largest guaranteed explained variance. But yet we focus on the sliver of unknown as if the sliver is going to someday surpass the large pie chart muscle. It's not to say you should ignore fascia, but to completely hang your hat on it and then to say things that are borderline questionable about fascia on how something that's so unknown, but you speak about it so definitively known, kind of blows my mind. And it's just like, I don't care if you say it, but they're not held with the burden of proof. Like, you can't just say something. I mean, you can, but as the buyer beware, like, don't just buy something without asking for like some evidence behind it. Like, don't just like go full in.
But that also gives you the wherewithal to be able to say those outlandish things because there's nothing that someone's going to come back on you. Like, I could say, if I said something about, muscle contractions or, whatever, you could be like, well, actually, there's a research study that says that, that's not true.
The new pup.
Yeah.
No, and absolutely. And that's so important. And so, like, one of those things that I've always thought about too is like, if I myself had to come up with a made up
Sorry about that, guys. I think my dog has to go outside and go poop.
Oh, you're good. Go handle it. I'll finish this here. I'll hop back if you need to.
No, Claire's got it.
Oh, awesome. I think one of the things that's awesome to think about is like, if you were to make up something crazy and outrageous, what would you make up? Ooh. And how would you sell it? I'm not saying you should do it, but you should think about it because then you can understand how people sell things. And here's one to you. My fake training program we called fear training. Everything you do has to evoke some level of fear and survivalism to it, because the theory is that when you're fear and survivalism, you only act reactionary, therefore activating all motor units, and it's the highest sympathetic reflexatory action, so therefore you're the highest levels of motor output, just like the grandma who picked up the car to save the kid. So we're trying to lower the threshold of survival untapped potential. And so we would do things like extremely high depth jumps. I'd make outrageous threats. You need to be afraid of things. And so I would throw things and yell at you. And the idea is to activate your survival mechanism. And so we would do all these different kinds of training that would involve severely dangerous movements in hopes of activating survivalism. And we'd do things like you would fall and drop and catch stuff, and you'd have to catch really heavy weighted balls. And I'd drive a car slowly at you. You'd have to push and stop it. Like different... I always joked about it, but like it's the type of thing where it's like enough sciencey sounding stuff, you could probably get away with it. And I think it's important for people try and devise your own. Don't sell it. Don't be an asshole, but devise your own so you can go through the thought process of how would someone sell this to me, or how would I get okey-doked into believing something that maybe isn't totally true. I mean, it doesn't mean don't listen to it and dive into it and try and see where the person's coming from. But maybe, like, if they're so dogmatic in their belief, take your time on it, I guess. Because making your own ridiculous situation, as goofy as it seems, like you kind of like, oh, you mix a little bit of the science, you mix some of these buzzwords in, you mix up some total fabrication, and you get, voila, a new grandiose perfect training program.
I mean, that's how this works, man. That's how society works now. And I could say, with everything going on with social media and websites and apps and stuff, it's a lot of people know just enough to be dangerous. And it kind of worries me sometimes. Like, people scroll through Instagram and they'll see a great post, maybe yours. They'll see something you post and talking about, power output and putting more force into the ground. And, if I do this trap bar jump and I pair it with this thing, and someone sees that they know just enough to be dangerous, they see that and go, well, wow, I can make that more now. I can get more out of a shock method by increasing my height. Now I go overload. Now I'm getting more. And it's like they know just enough, and we're exposed to just enough to be dangerous, because we can kind of, like you said, I can be sciencey enough, and then I can kind of fill in the fabric of the rest to kind of lead into what I'm trying to sell.
That's powerful, as we sell you guys on our podcast, because it's guaranteed to make you smarter, more beautiful, and more mobile if you listen to this podcast daily. Scientifically proven. So that's not made up, guys. That's basically as factual as facts. I'm kidding.
It's factual. It's factual, Max.
Factual. All right, guys. Well, that's enough rambling and ranting today. Hopefully you got something out of it. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys stop by our Harry's Hair Salon. Stop by Harry's Hair Salon on 225 East Ave. You'll know when you are by it based on the two large trees and the red mailbox, hard to miss. So Harry's Hair Salon, where you can stop by and use Vern Hair 20 to get 20% off or more any hair product you stop by. In a Harry's situation, don't worry, we'll straighten things out with a free perm. Stop on by Harry's Hair Salon, where you can get any hairstyle you'd like, hair product you need, and look even more beautiful than you are right now. Come on by. We appreciate you.
Oh, my God. Always clutch, Max.
All right. Take care. Peace.
Peace.